Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lending Leadership, the Mortgage Pros. I'm Tom Mills, one of your co-hosts here with my co-host, Robert Fillyaw, Dave Holland. Fellows, how we doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing great.
Doing awesome. I wanted to kick this one off. I know we brainstormed yesterday on what we're going to hit on, and I had an idea on the heels of my Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl.
Here we go.
Dominant fashion after a phenomenal year. You know, I was thinking, like, you know, what you look at, like, how hard it is to win the big one in any sport, right? Super Bowl or World Series or NBA championship. It really doesn't matter. It's really hard. You know, you see the Chiefs, like, they tried to go for a three-peat, you know, unsuccessfully. But, you know, you look at that type of dominance, that type of a winning culture. So we want to bring that into the mortgage business a little bit and talk about, like, how do you build a championship team in the mortgage industry? So we're talking about top originators building a championship team to go out there and win. Thought it was a great topic. Let's have some fun with it, guys.
Let's go.
I love this topic, you know, because I think a lot of times in our industry, the originator gets a lot of the accolades, a lot of the glory, so to speak. But I mean, really, they're nothing without a solid team behind them. You know, I say all the time, you're only as good as your back room, right? And that's just one small example of it. So I love the idea of this and to get into it and talk through it a little bit.
And in the back room, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And we've talked about before on the show, you can do everything perfectly, kill it, 2-week close, 2.5-week close, everything goes smooth. And then something gets a little hiccup at closing that may not even be the closer's fault, but it falls on us at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's about the winning culture, right? And how people are bought in. You know, for everybody to tell you, you got to have a great quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Somebody will tell you defense wins championships, right? And they're both right, you know. But a winning culture, that's the type of team that when someone's down, someone steps up, that next man up mentality, play through injury, you know, through sickness, you know, there's a goal and everybody's willing to do what it takes to get to that goal. And it's, you see it come together. You see when teams go on a run like that. And you see it in our business too, you know. So I think it's, how do you build that winning culture? How do you get your team bought in towards that vision, towards that goal, whatever that goal is? Because that's the championship. Whatever your goal is, you know, that's what you're going after to win.
Well, it's all of that, right? It's the culture. It's about having the back room. It's about having, you know, the playbook to go. It's about having the coaching to develop. It's about everyone working together and collaborating as a team. Like it's all of it. Like, you can have one of the best quarterbacks, but run really bad plays. Billy Napier at Florida making some bonehead play calls from time to time, and you're going to lose games, right? So you got to have all of the pieces, which I think is really a good opportunity for us to dig in today and help maybe talk about what we've done in the past and give people kind of maybe even a roadmap on where to go and how to do it. Yeah,
I think that's great. I think, you know, I guess every team starts with the draft, free agency, right? How do you build your team through the draft and free agency? You know, so really you got to have like a general manager hat, not quite the coaching hat, because you're trying to put your team together, you know, and fill gaps that are there. That's how everybody builds a team, right?
So if you're a loan officer just starting off, what's the first position? I know what I'm going to answer. The first position that you want to have filled, just a loan officer doing 2 or 3 transactions a month, just starting off.
That's a great question. So you're building a team, and what's the first position, and probably even more important, why? Like, what's that first person and why? So Dave, you said you know what it would be. What's yours?
I mean, it's a processor. You need a processor that's good and that you can depend on, that you have rapport, right? And with a processor, like any position that we're going to talk about here, I think it's a mix of both skill, you know, and because you can have all the skill in the world, and we've all had that rotten, you know, processor. You got to have a good attitude, because the mortgage business is tough. It's specifically tough on processors. That may be the toughest position at any mortgage company.
100%. I agree with that. Shout out to the processors.
Yeah. Much love to the processors. But yeah, you need a good processor to start off with. Someone that you have trust and rapport with. Someone that calls your customers, is good with your customers, maybe good with your realtor partners, knows how you like to conduct your business. I'd probably say that's the first person.
Yeah, the processor like moves the ball down the field, puts you in position to score on time, before the clock runs out, essentially.
Your processor's kind of like your running back, right? Like the person that you're going to count on to help. They can give you those big explosive plays, but also they're going to be down in distance. They're going to be the one you go to when it's up against the wall and you need that you need that play to come through to get your client to the closing table. Your processor's who you're going to lean on.
And I think you're right, Dave. I was actually going to say, I was just thinking like the type of loan partner, that you want to start with first. But I think you're right, because it's all capacity based, right? So, you'll never grow your sales side if you're sucked into the processing side. So you need a good processor to where you can do your sales functions and activities, getting up to the point that you've reached your capacity and your volume and your activity and your leads is beyond what you can handle. Then you need to staff into the front end, right? So I think you're right. Dead on with the processor would be that first hire. So what do you look for? Like a couple like key characteristics of like what makes a great processor?
I mean, tenacity, right? You want someone who's tenacious, that won't give up, right? That doesn't get frustrated easy with the difficult borrower, either difficult scenario or just difficult borrower. You want someone who's always going to look to get the yes out of there. And you want
I think from a processor standpoint, personally, I think attitude is probably even more important than skill or knowledge. I mean, because here's the thing, right? Like this is a customer service position. You are, as an originator, we're going to now trust you with communication with my clients and my referral partners. You have to have the right attitude. You have to be that team player. You have to find a way to get it done. I can teach you guidelines. I can teach you how to navigate the system, how we do. Like I can teach all of that. A basic, knowledge and understanding is important. But for me, attitude is probably the biggest piece in finding that successful teammate.
And a processor interacts with everyone along the whole entire line.
So many people.
Customer, realtor, closing company, our openers, underwriting, closing, post-closing, us. They're involved in everything.
Yeah. One of the best processors I know is one of the least experienced, like industry-wise, from years experience in the industry. So when you think about that, it kind of speaks to what you're saying.
And the opposite is we've hired processors, right? I've worked with processors who've had years of experience and can quote you every guide there is, but they don't have that same let's find a way to make it work mentality. They don't want to pick up the phone. They don't it's not the same level of service, and it typically does not work out.
The service is big too. It's got to be an extension of you, right? How their communication is, on down to the what's their email look like? I know we've done a lot of assessments in the hiring process and give them a bunch of conditions thrown together in a list and ask them to communicate in an email to the customer. What I also, I've always learned whatever, I think one of my biggest learning lessons through my career, it is, how to hire right in any role, because, we've talked about DISC, and really you can get a good understanding of that person, of their personality. Are they a conformer? Are they going to operate, follow standard operating protocol, or are they one to say, hey, I have a better way? Are they one that speaks freely, or are they one that bottles things up? Are they, there's a lot of things you can kind of tell that gives you the personality of the person you want, kind of give you a little bit of an expectation of that person, what they're going to be like from a, communication standpoint, where their eyes sit, their bubbly personality, or are they going to be a very dry and kind of to the point? Not that you have to be either, really. You just have to provide service, communication.
I think, one thing that we've touched on just a briefly, but I want to just hammer home for those of you listening is, the whole reason as an originator that you build a team is to be able to scale and to add capacity. Everything that we do in this business is capacity based, right? So when we talk about that processor being the first teammate that you have, that's to get all of those types of things off of you to give you time back, which hopefully you can devote to marketing and building more relationships that grows your business. Plus, frankly, if typically, now I'm not making blanket statements, but typically the personality that makes a really good salesperson is opposite of some of the traits and personalities that make a really good processor. You're not as detail oriented. You don't, it's not dotting the I's and crossing the T's. You're more big picture. So not only is this person taking stuff off of you that to give you more capacity, but it's probably likely stuff that you don't want to do. You don't enjoy doing anyway, right? So keep that in mind, guys. The reason you're building a team is to give you capacity to then turn around and market more and grow your business. So I think that's an important reason.
You don't want to hire a bunch of yous, right?
Yeah.
We don't need any more Daves, Roberts, or Toms. You need someone that has a complementary personality, your yang to the yin, if you were. So that's very important. And the DISC profile and what's the other one? Cultural index. Those kind of shine those through, and we know how to read them accurately.
Yeah, those are great tools to make sure you draft the right players to your team. When the NFL draft's going to be coming up in April, and they're
in Pittsburgh, by the way, I might add.
In Pittsburgh, we need to figure something out for that. By the way,
Sure.
So I mean, they're the money and the hours spent on analyzing the players to draft, and the combines and all of that. The DISC and the culture index; those are your tools to be able to make sure you're drafting the right players. If you're not familiar with what they are, hit us up and we can show you. We can train them. That's probably a good next topic somewhere down the road, also, guys.
Yeah, if you're out there interviewing a loan partner right now and want to get an idea of what you could know about that person, we can help you out with that for sure. I love that.
So
stuff.
you get that first teammate hired, maybe the off topic a little bit, but second teammate, what's the second hire you would make building your team? I know what mine would be.
It's 1,000,000% the loan partner. I can't imagine any of us would say anything different here. There's no.
Once you get to that level, right? And hey, in fairness to some of our listeners, not everyone's going to get to that level, and not everyone's going to want to have a loan partner. But that is definitely the next step for sure.
Yeah. We found that level to be, someone dedicated somewhere when you're running around like 7 units, pushing up towards like 100 units a year. You may feel like it's less if you don't have processing that's handling things and they're pushing back, so that number can look skewed. Some may not agree with that. Look, I think you got to look at how involved you are with that. But I think that's kind of that number and where that comes, where that person's needed. From there, I don't believe that it's from there. Now you start to look at your team. It's like, where do you have gaps? You need to fill the line. Do you need spots on defense? Are you not going on offense enough? So you need more marketing support. Are you not solving your problems fast enough? So you need a little middle linebacker that can run your defense, whatever the case may be. I don't know that there's a necessarily third hire that I would say is always the case.
I agree. I don't think there's a definitive, if you're building a team, this would be the third hire. It's going to vary from team to team, right? Because it may be a VA that you plug in. It may be a business development rep. It may be whoever, right? I think the key to know that, though, right? In the next segment, which we haven't.
Are we gonna keep using the football analogy? Are we gonna segue into something else?
Nah, well, man. The Eagles just won a Super Bowl. I have a parade in 2 days.
Dave's all butthurt because Pittsburgh got knocked out, really early. But whatever. The draft's in Pittsburgh, Dave. That's your consolation prize.
There you
go. Once you build the team, though, right? What has to happen before you ever start playing the game? And this could be baseball, football, basketball, soccer, hockey. You got to have some coaching. You got to have some development of that team. You got to really get them engaged and to know their positions and know the playbook and ready to go. So, the three of us are heavy proponents of leadership and coaching, mentorship. That's how the three of us met. The best coaches in the world bring out the best in their players. Even, I love this. I say this all the time. Tom Brady's the GOAT quarterback. I'll argue anyone who wants to argue about it, right? There's no question. He had a quarterback coach, right? The good coach doesn't just call the play; they develop the team, right? So then the team can kind of take it and run. And ultimately, for a lot of people, if you're building a team, that you're building a business, and this is where we're trying to get to, is to where that business can run, to where you can go to Argentina for 10 days, right? 14 days, however many days Dave was just gone, and your team runs. Tell us what happened, Dave. You want to, how many days were you gone?
I was away for 10 days.
10 days. No phone, no email. How many? You told me the story the other.
Checking a little bit, right? But
yeah,
but I wasn't. I didn't make any. I think I
talked to him one time.
Once,
yeah, I talked to him none.
Yeah.
You were hands off, and you told me a story when you got back that just kind of blew my mind about your pipeline.
Yeah, I didn't talk. I talked to Tom once. I didn't talk to any of my team members on the phone. Maybe a couple emails here and there. I was off my team email. Didn't talk to any customers. Maybe some loose texts with some realtor partners. I think when I left in mid-January, I had 15 loans in my pipeline, and when I came back, I had 27 or 28.
Yeah,
my team just took care of it. Now, listen, in fairness, my team is very experienced. They're very good. They're very well drilled. Mm-hmm. They've gone through coaching themselves.
You have a championship team. You have built
I have a great team. Yeah. And when I was leaving, I wasn't anxious. I was a little anxious, but I remember I used to go on vacation. I went to Africa once, Ireland, France for my honeymoon. I was anxious for 2 weeks leading up to it, right? Because there's only one person who was taking care of my business.
These are the steps, right? Like this is the roadmap to building the team that allowed Dave to do that. I've had similar experiences, so you identify the hires, what team members do we need? You start with the coaching, right? Most of you out there don't have the experience likely of putting a loan partner in place, of identifying the right processor, hiring the right loan partner. I see loan offers all the time, right? That they will go from not letting anything go. The range goes from not letting anything go, even though they have a loan partner, not leaning into it, to they think the loan partner's their basically indentured servant, having them picking up dry cleaning and like crazy stuff on call all the time. And it's because they don't know how to manage it. They don't know how to coach it. So
they've never been coached.
Yep.
And the other thing I've seen, and we've all seen it, it's funny, they try to hire themselves.
Yes.
Which is always a disaster, because it's the same result they had, the same poor results that they had before. You want to hire someone that is basically almost a polar opposite of you, that fills in the gaps that you don't have.
The other thing that I'll say is you're building the team and you're starting to let go of some of this stuff, guys. And I've made this mistake a number of times in my career. This is not like flipping a light switch, right? It's not instant on. You have to delegate things over time. Pick one or two things that you're going to let go of, because it's just as much training and retraining yourself to let go of these things as it is training them to take it. Pick 2 or 3 things that you're going to work on them taking off of your plate and start working on those. Once they have those, pick another 2 or 3, right? I've hired loan officers in the past who have not had the loan partner support. And, the analogy I've used is they're kind of like bicycling down the street, never been in a car before. And then I pull them off the street and put them on a Ferrari, and they wreck it like 100 yards down the road, right? They weren't ready for the Ferrari.
Really great point. And I think it's worth adding that when Robert says that, he doesn't mean dump your to-do list that day. If you're running your loan partner off a to-do list, like you're running it wrong. We believe in the term sweat the same way every time, building processes to where, if this, then that. If this happens, then that processor knows that their job is to do this. So when we talk about offloading things, that may be as simple as, the app came in online, go in and set it up and run credit and take a look at the loan. Is this a potentially approvable loan that the team's going to work on that day? That's a really easy first line of defense. It could be, how loan submissions are going in, something about the disclosure process. There's a million things. That's what I think you're referencing, how you're offing a couple of those things, at a time, not single task related.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely, Tom. Good point. It's not, hey, I need you to call Mr. Smith today. It's, you're going to make the initial call on all the pre-approval apps that come in to data check and verify the information before we run them. Right. So it's the activity, not the action.
Yeah.
Good point, Tom.
And now we're talking about coaching. I see this a lot too, and I know you guys have as well, is people get specifically coach in the mortgage business or get some sort of business coach or life coach, and they do it for 6 months and then they're out. They think they've learned it all. It needs to be constant reinforcement, constant coaching, constant learning, constantly. It doesn't end, right? And our business changes rapidly. So, I've been coached now for 6.5 years. I know Robert's a little bit longer. I know Tom's a little bit longer too. And we're all still coached on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then coaching your team and having regular, consistent, your how you meet with your team, daily huddles with your team on down to recapping the month and coaching back where missed opportunities were, and this loan was a miss. Let's have a post-mortem assessment of that and talk about how, when that issue happens again, how we're going to handle that. I think it's scripting. It's the language that they're using with the customers. But it's also the goals, that you set too. So it's coaching, but it's coaching towards the goals and then, in a motivated way to do that. So you really, to build a winning team, you have to have people that want to be coachable, that want to really come to work and make an impact and be great at what they're doing and be a part of something special, because I think what we do is kind of special. And when you do it at a really high level, it's really fulfilling. It's really fulfilling.
Yeah. I love the huddle aspect that you talk about. One thing when I have loan officers starting to partner with, especially new loan partners, we'll do a daily huddle in the morning, in the afternoon, a quick check in, check out, to correct anything, to do that coaching. It's a little mini coaching session, guys. When we think about this analogy of building a team, right? Like, when a coach has when a new coach comes in and they're putting in a new offensive system or a new defensive system, and it's a hell of a lot of work in the beginning. There's way more, but once that system's implemented and everyone knows the plays, then it's just calling the play. It's not as much work. So keep in mind, as you're doing this, it takes more in the front end to build the team. You're going to work more. As compared to just doing it yourself. It takes more, right? But the end goal is well worth it, because then you get a team that just can run the plays without you having your thumb on it every day, all the time. That's where the magic is.
Well, let's get into the basic blocking and tackling, kind of the, offensive line, if you were, right. And I think
trenches.
It probably, and it's stuff that has to happen that's behind the scenes that a lot of times, the client doesn't see, our realtor partners don't see, the title company. The only time they see it is if it's done poorly, right? So that'd be like underwriters and closers that aren't necessarily client facing or realtor partner facing, but are if you have bad ops in general, and processing aside, we covered that. But if you have bad underwriting, it's going to be a long year for you.
I love the analogy that you use of the offensive line. And I think about that quarterback, right? I just saw a story not too long ago about the gifts that various quarterbacks had given to their offensive lines for Christmas. Awesome stuff. And rightly so. They're showing love because those guys protect them, right?
Yeah.
And your ops team is the same way. So, we have a long standing rule that we don't hire jerks. So, not for nothing, but if you're out there and you're being mean and aggressive to your operations team, you're messing that up. I'm telling you right now, those people have your back. You want them to love you and go to war for you. And if you don't show them the gratitude, the love, the admiration that they deserve, they're not going to do that. So, we've all ran into those loan officers who aren't so nice sometimes to the people in the trenches that make the big difference. If that's you, gut check yourself and work on showing some gratitude and love to those people.
Plus, you don't want every single time underwriter Bob picks up Robert's file, they say, "Oh, I got one of Robert's files again." Right? You want them to have your back and move through your loans quickly. That makes a massive difference.
Guys, little confession here. I was that originator when my career first started. I was a jerk, honestly. Like we have someone that works with us now that was an underwriter for me when I was originating, and I've gained a lot of ground. She did not like me, and rightly so. I was not the way that I should have been. So, that's one thing. That offensive line that you have, you're only as good as your back room. They make a massive difference on your ability to be successful or not.
Closing too, closing needs to do a good job. I mean, they're the unsung heroes of our business, and that's often a department that is thinly staffed. I think we have an awesome closing. We have great ops in general. But we have a great closing group as well too, and they care, right? So much of it is the right attitude, saying yes, going above and beyond. It's 5:02, not running out the door. I mean, listen, sometimes can't be helped. People have lives. I get that, but it's the winning attitude, from the top down.
Absolutely. So we got the team, right? We've done our due diligence, our analysis. We got the team. We've done some of the coaching. We got our back room ready to go to war for us. Now we're at a point, right, where we're ready to scale. And that's what I love. The ability to scale comes through. Now we need to start implementing some systems and processes and ways to be more efficient and to gain bigger and greater success. What's some of the things you guys have seen in terms of systems, processes, once your team's in place, to maximize efficiency and success?
Basic stuff we talked before, and all this stuff doesn't sound too sexy. Time blocking, planning your week, planning your day, doing something every day for sales and marketing, just basic stuff that, again, it's not that sexy, but that pays big dividends. Doing the mundane day in, day out, every day of the week.
For me, a total game changer, total life changer, honestly, build my team phone and team email.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Team phone and team email, right? Because when we think about this as an originator, as a single originator, you are everything. You're the conduit that everything runs through. Every phone call, every text, every email is you, right? Well, if we're really going to scale and we're going to build capacity, that has to shift. And it needs to not be you anymore. So when you put in a team phone, this is a phone number that rings to your entire team. It'll ring to you as well, but you can even stagger it to, like, mine rings to my loan partners first. And then if they don't answer it in so many rings, then it rings to me. That way they're fielding the calls, and only the stuff that is on fire or that they can't handle is being escalated to me, which now means instead of me touching 100% of the things, I'm touching maybe 5% or 10% of the things. And the same with team email, right? How many of you guys out there have had a day stacked with appointments, and then maybe you have a closing, maybe your kid had a practice, and you open your email and there's 150 emails in there that you haven't been able to respond to, or you're distracted at your kid's event answering emails because it's you and you have to get them answered, right? Team email takes that off. Your whole team's in your inbox, managing it, making sure responses happen, engaging clients, right? There's nothing worse than leaving a closing. You've been, or a coffee appointment. You're engaged for the last 45 minutes talking to someone, and that realtor you were chasing emailed you a lead, that client emailed you, and you didn't get back to them for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and now they've engaged with another lender because you weren't right there. Team email, team phone, life-changing, game changer for me.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Number one, having that like culture of accountability, having people in the right roles, constantly analyzing that, stepping back, looking at the functions monthly, where are things busting, who's falling behind, who needs a boost, everybody doesn't have the same capacities. It doesn't mean their skill set or their importance, isn't just as great. And then I think, adapting, as you grow, realizing that what is your role and what should that role remain. And then, sometimes, as you are moving people into the right place to put your business in the right place, when you put people in the right position to put your business in the right place, sometimes that leads to some hard decisions, and you have to, sometimes it's like that team that got you here isn't the team that got you there. So I think it's just constantly analyzing that and working to get better, having your team behind that culture of accountability of everybody wanting to get better. Generally, when you have that, I find that, when you have that mindset, everybody really bought in and wants to get better, you deal with a lot less of that, your team not being able to grow with you. You have to grow together as a team. I think I'm 21 years in the mortgage business. We're still learning something every day. Our team still is. It's one of the beauties of this business. It's what keeps it like fun and entertaining and challenging. And so as a team, just got to keep pulling each other up, lifting each other up, learning together, getting sharper, getting a little bit better every day. I think, all that is the most key, building that winning culture.
I agree. I mean, the culture is a big piece of it. Listen, guys, as you build your team, you got to celebrate the wins with them. That's really important. Also, you're going to have challenges. Listen, keep in mind that Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Pick any cliche that you want. You're going to have challenges. Things are going to break. Things are going to go off the rails of how you intended them to be. Those challenges are an opportunity to address it, coach to it, improve it, use it as a culture building exercise, get better from it, and keep people motivated. Challenges are one of the things that make us better and stronger. Don't look at them as a negative as you're building this team. You're going to mess something up. Something is going to go awry. That's part of it. The end goal is still well worth it, and you got to just work through it.
And one of the challenges today is just the market in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's the market the last 2.5 years. But if you focus on the activity, focus on what you need to do day in and day out, success will come. We're in the winter right now here in the north, so the market is always a little challenging, but it's focusing. I can't stress this enough on the mundane, the basic blocking and tackling, keeping your team motivated and focused on the same goal.
Well said, brother.
Awesome stuff, guys.
This was a fun episode. Good stuff. I like the analogies.
Absolutely. Yeah, Eagles analogy.
We didn't even prepare those analogies.
Eagles and football analogy aside, yeah, it was a good one.
Tom's just happy because the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Sometimes you have the best players and you win, and sometimes you have the best culture and you win, and sometimes you have both. And we were that team fortunate enough to have both this year. So yeah,
it's funny when we look at the things we talked about, and then like if we were to do a comparative analysis to the Eagles, like all of these things come into place, right? Like you look at the right player, like without Saquon Barkley, right? They went out and got Saquon Barkley. You look at some of the play calls, some of the decisions, the tush push kind of stuff, like the defense, like yeah. So
I was nearly 40 when they won their first one. My son's 13. He's got 2 Super Bowls and 1 Super Bowl. It's just a normal thing for him.
Yeah,
I'm like, you don't know what I went through, man.
That's it, exactly. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today on Lending Leadership with the Mortgage Pros. Listen, if you have a winning strategy or story to share out there, we would love to hear it. Hit us up on social media. Drop us a line in the comments. As always, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, leave us that 5-star review. Keep working on building your championship team. For Dave Holland and Tom Mills, I'm Robert Fillyaw. Thanks for listening today, guys.
Thanks, everyone.